recall, this item was pulled from a previous consent agenda, and during this time, we've worked very closely with CFX to make sure that we explored all the avenues in terms of safety for this particular program, and it's a roadway use agreement between Central Florida Expressway Authority and Orange County for Schofield Road. So in terms of the outline of the presentation, we'll talk about the expressway project, State Road 516. We'll also look at the other east-west corridor improvements in the area, a little more specifics on the use agreement, and then the action requested. So the State Road 516 Orange Lake Connector project is a 4-lane limited access toll facility. It's about 5 miles in length, and it will stretch between US 27 and State Road 429 in Orange County. As you can see, there's a number of interchanges along the way that provide local access to the expressway, and it's also being produced in 3 segments, 2 of those in Lake County and the 3rd in Orange County. So a little more information on segment 3 in Orange County. It goes from the county line over to 429. You can see there's a half interchange that provides local access at a future road called Valencia Parkway. There's segments of Valencia Parkway already constructed, but the Expressway Authority will complete this portion, and it will connect to the north to Schofield Road. And you can also see in this graphic that there's a system-to-system interchange between 516 and 429. In terms of the timeline, the groundbreaking for this project occurred back in April 2024, just a few months ago. The limited notice to proceed for construction is actually going to be issued today. The full notice to proceed for the full construction will happen in August, and then the anticipated completion of the entire segment 3 is in April 2027. I'll also let you know that the other 2 segments in Lake County, they're basically done with design. They're in the permitting phase and should be released for construction later this year. So all in all, it will all finish relatively around the same time, if all goes well. The construction contract for segment 3 is just shy of $219 million for this about 1 mile of limited access expressway. We've talked about price escalations. They're not exempt from that as well. Part of that bid estimates that just over 500,000 cubic yards of fill material will be needed for this expressway. And conveniently, there is a sand mine called CEMEX located in Lake County. It's the star on the left, and the blue line represents Schofield Road. And the star on the right is the Valencia Parkway intersection that we showed before. So about a 2.5 mile hauling route for the fill materials. I will say that this time gave us an opportunity to get with CFX, and they met with CEMEX, and the hauling of materials will stay between those 2 stars for the entire time for the fill material, as well as a right turn decel lane at the Valencia Parkway intersection to allow those vehicles to exit general traffic. As part of the hauling, the period of time they estimate between August of this year and December of 2026, there will be about 20 trucks that will be involved in the hauling, about 6 to 7 trips each for round trips to the site and back, equating to about 125 trips per day. There'll be full-time flagging during those operations at the intersection with Valencia Parkway, could even be a temporary signal. That's on the contractor for the MOT. And CFX is obligated through this agreement to maintain Schofield Road for the entirety of that operation and construction of the expressway. In terms of the other roadways that make up the east-west delivery to and from Orange County include 4 projects. So it's Flemings Road, Sawgrass Bay Boulevard on the Lake County side, New Independence Parkway, Wellness Way on the Lake County side, and Schofield Road on both county side. In seeing all these roads being needed, we entered into a mutual cooperation agreement with Lake County back in 2017, and we continue to stay in close coordination with them. And as you can see, those 4 corridors will eventually provide 16 lanes of traffic capacity, not to mention the 6 lanes on State Road 50 and 6 lanes down on 192. So at the end of the day, there'll be plenty of roadway capacity. So starting down south at Flemings Road, this is a very important connection between Lake and Orange. Sawgrass Bay Boulevard has been constructed. The western end is a 4-lane facility. The eastern end is still a 2-lane facility. Lake County has given the notice to proceed for bidding for a roundabout at the end of Sawgrass Bay Boulevard. That is the point of connection for Orange County, so that needs to be in place. It's likely to start this fall and finish up probably this time next year. Our side for Flemings Road, the developers of the Village I Roadway Network Agreement are obligated to design and construct. There are timetables in that agreement for performance for them. July 1st, 2025, they need to be under construction. And the connection needs to be in place no later than January 2026. So we have those controls in place. It's likely that this project for us, Flemings Road, will start later this year. Incidentally, the study for this project was completed in 2022, and we've received the 90% design plans from the developers late last month, and those are out for review. Some of the outstanding issues is we do have right-of-way from 3 property groups that we will need to acquire. A large part of that is from the signatory owners of the developers. That should go pretty simply, but we have 2 other groups, Disney and the OMH LLC, that we're in negotiations for drainage, easement agreements from Disney. Also, there's a permitting issue, the 404 permit between the DEP and the Army Corps. That's still being resolved. That may create some time issues, but we're hopeful that that'll be resolved soon. And again, late 24 for that construction. Moving at the north end, the other bookend is Wellness Way in Lake County. They're constructing a 2-lane roadway, probably done in the 3rd quarter of 2024. On our side, New Independence Parkway, we do have a developer's agreement for the Silverleaf Road Network Agreement, and that PDS was approved back in 2023. Right-of-way acquisition is already complete. It's through a separate agreement through the Conserve, and the outstanding issues we're approaching 90% design to address some operational and stormwater issues for that project. There's minor environmental permitting that needs to be done. There are some funding constraints that we've tried to remedy through road agreements and recent amendments to the escrow agreement to help accelerate that private funding to move forward, to get both New Independence and 545 moving, as well as amendment to the Village I Road Network Agreement could also bring some additional funding and acceleration to those projects. So very hopeful that we can get New Independence under construction in the fall of 2024. So as you can see, we're all moving towards construction on all of these projects. Now in the middle, Schofield Road is the most convenient location for the hauling. On the Lake County side, they have constructed 2 lanes that connect all the way. Now the traffic was open during the entire process, and that sets it apart from the other roads that we've been talking about, is that this one has been open for traffic the entire time. However, when Lake County improved their dirt road to a paved road, more vehicles came. About 8,000 vehicles per day have shown up. So it is very busy, well within the capacity of a 2-lane roadway. There are some geometric curves that help control the speed, and the construction zone for CFX will also create a break in the long straightaway on Schofield Road. For the county project, this has always been a partnership project in our long-range plan. We're looking to combine a study phase and a design phase together to try to gain some time on the process. And you know, there's no commitment from developers on this corridor. Landowners have dedicated enough right-of-way for the future road, so that is in place. As I mentioned, the design and RCA scope will be combined. That's our plan so far. There has been a portable traffic signal put in place at Schofield and 545 to help manage this uptick in traffic, and also for the future deliveries and hauling for this roadway as well. In terms of the road use agreement, it gives CFX authorization to haul. It will modify the posted weight limit sign. That's the sign that's out there today. It will remove class 6 through 9 to allow those operations for CFX to occur while still maintaining the other classes of restrictions. Again, maintenance obligations for CFX for that roadway all the way through the final construction. And the intersection improvement at Schofield and Valencia Parkway is also part of from CFX to build the ultimate traffic signal, including the design for a future northern leg from the Silverleaf development. So with that gives you a broad perspective of all the roadway projects in the area and the needs of CFX to haul and get their project going. We're requesting the approval and execution of roadway use agreement, Central Florida Expressway Authority, Schofield Road, by and between Central Florida Expressway Authority and Orange County for District 1. With that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we're going to go to the district commissioner. I know Commissioner Wilson has been in dialogue with many of her constituents out in that area, and I can tell you from a couple of the town hall meetings, there was a lot of concern about this particular area and traffic congestion. So we want to do the least harm that we can. So we want to make certain that we're doing everything correctly. We're going to go to Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate it. And yes, you got to hear some of the spice. I think there's been, opportunities to understand and listen. We've also, I think, not taken probably as many opportunities as we could to educate about some of what I think is coming. So I appreciate the effort that was put into the presentation. I do think that sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I did have my staff, if we could run this really quickly, this will give you a better idea of the way really this intersection that's going to be very heavily impacted if the agreement is as reads, goes forward. And the reason why I pulled it. You can hit play.
Commissioner Wilson says the promise to get to zero fatalities means acting before a tragedy and not after. Additionally, drivers say they want to see more safety measures on the roads before more developments like this add more cars to the road.
They need to put the infrastructure in first before it gets to a point where it's now an issue.
Residents in Horizon West say the infrastructure isn't built for the number of cars that are currently on the road. And as development continues,
It's only going to get worse. You know, there are times when I'll get off at a different exit just to avoid that intersection. I don't know. The worst part is someone trying to turn left on that road.
Russ Schwalbe is talking about this intersection, Avalon and Schofield, a busy and seemingly dangerous intersection for drivers at 429. Drivers say regardless of the time of day, you always have to be on guard.
Somebody's almost hit me a few times, and it's always congested.
We saw car parts along the side of the road from past accidents. According to the State Highway Patrol, there have been 9 crashes in or around the intersection since September, including 2 in January, just 2 days apart.
It shouldn't have to be a fight to get traffic lights or safety devices in this neighborhood.
The intersection is also the future site of a man-made wave pool, which residents say will only add to the traffic issues. The county says it has been looking at vendors to install portable signals similar to these in the intersection to prevent any more accidents from happening. Again, the county is waiting for vendors to install the traffic lights. As of right now, there's no time frame of when they'll be added. Reporting in Orange County, Darren Matthews, Channel 9, Eyewitness News.
Okay, so I think just for the visual, and I think it was really important also that you got to hear that it's not just a convenience issue. I mean, the congestion, of course, is something that we all hear a lot about, but the safety piece of this. And so when I heard from Public Works that this agreement was going to be in our consent agenda, I thought it was really important that we pull it and talk about what the agreement means, what the options are for us to be able to protect our residents. I have no intention or desire to delay this important link that the Central Florida Expressway Authority wants to put in, because I do think it's going to ultimately alleviate some of that heavier commerce type traffic that we want to see on expressways. So I want to be really clear. I know I have Winter Garden representation in the room, and I've spoken with many people who really on the lakeside that really don't want any part of this discussion to delay the CFX project from moving forward. The part that I want to make sure that we're not ignoring is that without any of those other entrances to Lake County, Schofield Road is right now the only access point until you go all the way up to Marsh Road and all the way down to 1792, which means that I think there's probably an undercount of the 800 cars that are coming through there. There's an emergency signal. There's a hill that's a little bit blind. And so even with the emergency signal, which, unfortunately we were given a timeline, then that timeline was changed and then changed again, the residents are scared and a little bit distrustful of this process. And so I want to make sure that when we, sign off on this agreement, that there's every opportunity in it to protect that intersection. So the discussion that I had with staff and with Brian and John specifically was, can we make sure that the heaviest usage stays off of 545? And I think if you could address the discussion that you had with CFX and what their plans were to avoid that particular intersection in 545.
Right. There have been lots of discussions with CFX on how to optimize the traffic and try not to load more deliveries onto 545. And that's the whole reason why we're wanting to select Schofield Road, is to keep those sand deliveries, which is going to be quite a few, about 500,000 cubic yards, off of 545 altogether. The alternative is to send those trucks back out to 27, out to 50, out to 192, and right back onto 545 to get back. So selecting Schofield Road is the most effective way of reducing traffic on those other roadways, and to have a more direct delivery for that project.
Okay, so that intersection then, Schofield and Avalon, explain to me exactly how that comes into play for the Hall portion of this, the fill portion of this. If CMX is the primary source for fill, is there the possibility of moving this forward, removing the portions of this that allow for that type of usage at the 545 and Schofield intersection?
It's very important to have signal control at that intersection, and we've done that. On an interim basis, there's a temporary traffic signal that is facilitating those movements both off of 545 and on Schofield. Now, sand is not the only thing that's going to be coming to this location. There's going to be bridge beams, abutments, and pipes, and other things that will need to come from other locations. It could use 545. I mean, definitely going to have to come at it from different locations, depending on where the materials are located. So having that signal in place and continue to work on the permanent signal is very important to us and the entire region.
Yeah. Excuse me, Commissioner. Dale Mudrak with Development Engineering, and we implement the haul routes for these type of projects. And they'll be coming from Lake County down Schofield Road and entering at Valencia, so they shouldn't be coming to this intersection at all.
Well, and that's what I understood, but if you read, and I highlighted every single one of the clauses in the agreement that allows them to use specifically that intersection. And that is for every type of hauling, every type of weight restriction being lifted for the next 10 years.
Right.
And
Well-
quite frankly, I'm not sure for the other projects if we're going to be able, they can use that intersection if someone helps us get another access point for our residents through. We can't have it both ways. We can't open that up for this heavy equipment, that's going to be really this clog point for every residential access and every single construction access. And we have 3 others that are just dangling out there, one of which residents have just tried to make their own path. And, I did bring some pictures of that because down at Fleming's, they've had to arrest some folks because they're literally just making their own path through. And to not have some interim access point where we can allow residents to safely cross into Lake County to get to 27 so that they're not squished between these heavy pieces of machinery. When you come up to that, by the way, interim emergency signal, I wouldn't call it, really a signalized intersection at this point, and it just went live, by the way, last week. Okay, so it would flash and it just went live. So I'm daily getting calls about people not seeing it in time, the crunches that are happening. I don't want to delay CFX by arguing this contract, but it's clearly articulating a use for that intersection, and that's fine, so long as we provide another access point for our residents. And that's what I need to make sure that we're addressing here. We cannot put people in harm's way in order to alleviate something down the road. It's just not worth someone's life. So I just need to make sure I understand what we're doing right now and today.
Commissioner, we understand from conversations with CFX, let me just go back to one of the graphics, that CFX is committed to, for the haul and the fill that you're going to see for this project, to not having that go through the 545 Schofield Road intersection. And from this graphic, you can obviously see they're attempting to use Schofield Road for the bulk of the haul. And so that material will never reach that critical intersection that was from the video. So we've got that commitment from CFX that the fill material that's used as part of their permit for this section will not traverse that critical intersection. That'll be part of our MOT permit that's managed by Dale and his team as part of the haul permit.
Okay, so, and I know that a lot of this, I really want to make
So
sure.
despite the agreement and the language in the
That's my
agreement,
concern,
that's
because
a
I'm looking at
restriction
agreement.
that they've agreed to,
Okay.
and staff will add as part of that permit. The other part, and I think you heard this from Brian in his presentation, they've agreed to a right turn decel lane, and that'll have the effect of those fully laden heavy vehicles getting out of that main travel lane as they travel eastwardly from the fill site to Valencia College Parkway. To be able to access the project site, there'll be a right turn lane where they'll be able to decel there and get out of the main lane of traffic. So that's been another commitment of CFX that'll be memorialized in the county's MOT and haul permit.
Okay. So that is a commitment that will be articulated and memorialized in another written agreement, because this agreement doesn't articulate or
Correct.
memorialize that. And that
Correct.
was my biggest concern. And I want you to know, for people who drive down Avalon Road, and
Right.
it is really and I know that we all sort of live in our bubbles, but it's everywhere. If you read the ticked off column on Sunday, somebody literally articulated how ridiculous this intersection was, that all of Avalon, because of this is done in agreements with developers that have their own timelines, it's a patchwork. So people think they're moving along on a roadway that has been updated and looks like it's ready for the type of development there, and then boom, they're back down, dangerous, everyone's crunching on brakes, everyone's sliding around, and then they kind of come up over this ridge, and that's where this intersection is. And so it's a very, with or without a solar-powered temporary traffic light that just came live last week, it's a very dangerous intersection. The roadway there is very dangerous. Schofield Road is very dangerous on the Orange County side. There are hairpin curves. It is dark. It is absolutely, to me, I just don't want to be back here after hearing about a tragedy and saying, how could we have prevented this? We knew we were putting heavy equipment on this road with our residents. We didn't offer our residents any other way through.
And Commissioner, just for clarity in this particular graphic, that critical intersection of Schofield and 545 is off to the far right. So it's even more east than the star. It's on the other side of the 429. So again, these heavy trucks, hauling fill to and from this project site should not be traversing, and we've got that commitment from CFX.
No, and listen, I appreciate it. Like I said, I think when we talked on Friday, this made me feel so much better, because a couple weeks ago, reading this agreement, and I marked it up and highlighted everywhere it said that they had the right to utilize, and they said specifically US 2729 County Road 545 in connection with the operation of the project for fill, for any type of any use from the sand mine, from any other place in the county or area. So I think knowing that there's going to be another place where that restriction is expressed, I'm willing to move forward with this today, but I appreciate that you all allowed me the opportunity to get this clarification. Our residents really deserve to know every opportunity we get to go out there and explain this. And, I think my counterpart in Lake County did, a really great job of trying to get us involved in a meeting over there. There were over 300 residents there from both the Lake and Orange County side, and this was specifically addressing that cut through south of Schofield, but the closest one, right? We're talking about 1.5 miles between Schofield and the cut through there at Fleming's or Western Way. And I'm not sure if this was articulated. I know that, even though Mr. Kunkel had his little name tent up, he was in the back of the room and didn't come up. Thank you for coming up, and at least Brian standing in front of the residents and I think taking the bulk of those questions, but it was a very difficult thing for me to walk away from, knowing that we had a captive audience to explain some of these things, and we didn't take advantage, I don't think, to the level we need to, knowing that they are every single day living in very dangerous circumstances, and we're going to make it more dangerous with this plan. Unless we are very thoughtful in what we put in writing, because if it's not in writing, the worst will happen. And that's the part that I want to make sure I'm being very clear on.
Okay, John and Brian, just follow up to one of the points that Commissioner Wilson is bringing up. The agreement in question, are you sure that it doesn't need to have an annotation that references the MOT agreement?
So just to be clear on the different documents, there's 3 different documents. There's the agreement, there's an E-permit for the design of the intersection at Schofield and Valencia, and as well as the hauling permit. So ostensibly, it could be all bundled into one big document, but we do have different processes for the different elements of this project. So we're pretty confident that we have quite a bit of flexibility in the haul agreement, and CFX is just as same feeling about safety as we do. They don't want an unsafe project on their side. They have a lot to answer for as well. So we're both working at this together for the safest condition possible, given the materials that need to be moved. So
I know it's the lawyer and Commissioner Wilson, but I'm just, are you all confident that there's no need to make any kind of reference in the agreement that we're being asked to approve today that cross-references these other permitted or agreements.
Mayor, if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Weiss, is that despite the numerous references in the whereas clauses, which are incorporated as true and correct in the agreement, that there will be a subsequent permit which will specifically restrict the transport of materials on 545, which will essentially supersede this agreement?
That is correct. We have the authority and the ability and enforceability under our permit for the haul material to enforce that restriction. Again, CFX has agreed to accept that restriction, and we have, again, the authority to include it in the permit and enforce it should that become necessary.
All right, if you all, again, you're saying to me you feel confident that we have what we need.
I mean, and I'm not being dramatic. If something happens at that intersection, and we've stood here and given these types of assurances, I don't want that on us. That's not us. We do better. We have promised Vision Zero here. It's not just words, okay? And it is something that if there's a possibility of modifying this, I would be more comfortable with that, Mayor, and I appreciate you getting the clarification.
Okay, they feel like they have it, so that's the intent. You know, we can have the conversations. Commissioner Wilson, would you like to offer a motion?
I will, with the caveat that we will have an opportunity to review those other documents as they move through and forward with those assurances.
Second, Uribe.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous of those present. All right, we're going to go to, I believe this is the final item of